Hello, grandson. This is grandfather, and I want to tell you a story about your grandfather's grandmother and grandfather. This is a story about John Malcolm Pittendray and Elizabeth Maynard Pittendray. And back in 1915, they moved to a place called Atlanta, Georgia. Now, at the time, your grandfather's grandfather, John Malcolm Pittendray, worked in textile machinery, and he used to go around the different parts of the southeast and sell machines to different textile plants. Textile plants are mills that make cotton, or they make clothes out of cotton and other fabrics. The clothes I'm wearing were made in textile mills. Well, anyway, in 1915, he, coming from Massachusetts, moved to Atlanta. And people in Atlanta did not like people from Massachusetts. And the reason they did not like people from Massachusetts is that, well, just a few decades earlier, there had been a war between the North and the South in America. And a lot of people were still alive who remembered that war. And Atlanta was a city that had been burned to the ground by the Yankees, the people from the North. Well, eventually, the Northerners and the Southerners, the war ended, but it took a long time for things to heal. And people in the South, like Atlanta, did not like people from the North, like those from Massachusetts, which included your grandfather's grandfather. Your grandfather's grandmother was even worse. She was from the state of New York. Well, anyway, I won't get into that. So one day, my grandfather had done everything he could to make friends with these people from the South, but they were very suspicious of your grandfather's grandfather. But one day, these people who were Southerners extended the hand of hospitality to your grandfather's grandfather. And they said, "Mr. Pittendray, you tell your wife, don't fix a Thanksgiving dinner this year. We're going to fix it for you. We'll get it ready and we'll serve it at your house." And so on Thanksgiving Day in 1915, there was a knock on the door. John Malcolm Pittendray opened the door, and there was this woman, an African-American woman, wearing a white apron and a red bandana on her head, and holding this big tray that had a dome cover on it. And they welcomed her in, and they sat at the table. And this woman set this big old tray on the table, and then took the cover and uncovered it, and there on this tray was this magnificent Thanksgiving meal. It was a baked possum. My grandmother described it as looking like a rat swimming in grease with a big old sweet potato in its mouth. Well, the African American who had been given the task of bringing this food stood there and waited on my family through the whole meal. And my grandfather knew that she was going to report back to the people in this Atlanta mill. And so he ate the possum. And my father, Daddy Bill, who was 5 years old at the time, which is about your age right now, he ate the possum. As far as we know, Grandma Pittendray did not eat one single bite of the possum, but did eat a little of the sweet potato. And to the day she died, she always wondered, was that really a possum, or was that just a big rat? Anyway, the men at the mill heard about how Mr. Pittendray enjoyed his Thanksgiving lunch. And after that, they accepted him as a friend and a colleague in business. So whenever you are offered hospitality, like food, it's best to go ahead and eat it. Just don't ask what it is you're eating.